Home isn't just a place, it's a feeling. Whether you're at home, your business, or online, ADT helps keep you safe. With security systems, home automation, alarms, and surveillance, so you can feel at home, wherever you are. Go to ADT.com to get that feeling. ADT, home, safe home.
This is the Best of Mike and Mike podcast. Subscribe now by going to the Listen tab in the ESPN app.
The Best of Mike and Mike.
And happy Friday morning, everybody. Welcome in to another version of Mike and Mike. Oh, forget it. It's Golic and Wingo.
Yeah,
Welcome in. How are we? Trey Wingo with Mike Golic. Was that a little too early?
No.
All right, we're good. Technically, as you can see if you're watching, it's Mike and Mike, but really in person.
I'm not going to do the thing and do a pen or anything.
Yeah, right
like
there.
that.
Cross it up now. It's Golic and Wingo. We're glad you're with us. Happy Friday. Weekend's here almost. Woohoo. Hope you're off to a great start to your morning. By the way, you and I are going to fight today.
Trey and I are going to fight. Not physically. Yeah. I mean, Trey wouldn't be that dumb.
I'm not that stupid.
No, but we are going to go at it for something that I think is absolutely spot on.
And I think it's absolutely wrong.
Yeah, and
it's a critical issue.
It is a
that the world is facing.
It has to do with sports.
Yes.
And that right there is a tease.
Yeah, we'll probably be doing this for about an hour and a half.
Yeah, we will.
So there you go.
I'd say about the last 15 minutes of the show, we'll jump into that topic.
So if you're driving around at 6, make sure you're still driving around at 9:30.
Hope you have a long commute.
Exactly. If you're stuck in traffic, this is the show for you.
This is the time you're going to be saying, yes, I'm stuck in
traffic.
It's going to be awesome.
We are on ESPN Radio and ESPN2, presented by Progressive Insurance, and all phone guests appear on the Shell Pennzoil Performance line, and those guests today will include Peter King, Bomani Jones, and Brian Billick of NFL Network. We got a lot to get to. A lot of football to discuss, some NBA news, all that kind of stuff. So let's get it going, Mike, with
Off the Top.
And we start with baseball, much to Hembo's delight. Giancarlo Stanton, 2 more home runs Thursday for his 10th multi-home run game this season, one shy of the single-season Major League record.
Yeah, the most ever by a player as far as multi-home run games since Albert Pujols in 2009. Only 2 players have ever had more in a season. Sammy Sosa had 11 multi-game home runs games in 1998, and Hank Greenberg, no relation to Greeny, in 1938. So he's got the 59. He has said he regards 61 as the true record of Roger Maris.
Right. The
baseball record books disagree. It will be 73, so he's not going to threaten that. But he's got 3 games to get 2 to tie what he thinks is a record. 3 more, all home against Atlanta, all rookie pitchers for Atlanta this time around. He's at 12 home runs off rookie pitchers this year. What do you think? 2 more home runs?
I think it's certainly possible.
1 to get to 60. He would be, the 8th different person to get to 6 different player in baseball history to hit 60 home runs. Babe Ruth, Roger Maris, Mark McGwire did it 2 times, Sammy Sosa did it 3 times, and Barry Bonds. So 6th player to get to 60. I think he'll do that. 3 games, 1 dinger to get to 60.
Yeah.
That would just be great to see.
So now that you brought up the subject, what do you consider to be the record?
73 is a record.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just so. To think that the PED era is the only era of cheating in baseball is ridiculous. Now, there are different forms of cheating.
Correct.
And some cheating can help you in more ways than others, but this cheating, the PED, happened to affect not only the greatest numbers in the sport of baseball, but maybe the best record numbers in any sport, because baseball is so associated with numbers. So you knew the single season, you knew the career home run, you knew all those records, and
sometimes you don't feel that way anymore.
And now with Bonds,
wait, what is it?
With Bonds, you're not sure what it is, but you knew the 714s and the 755s and the 61,
right?
Now it's like, now I want to see. Aaron Judge has over 50, but he's not going to catch Stanton. If it would have been great if they were in the 50s and close to one another, would people get going as much as they did from McGwire and Sosa when they were having those
Summer
battles?
of '98.
Yeah, I don't think they will, but I'd like to see that.
And whenever I hear the words, the names Sammy Sosa and Mark McGwire together, I think of 2 things: that great summer of 1998,
right,
and then that horrendous clip of late Senator Ted Kennedy talk about politicians talk about sports and they just get it wrong.
It's just you cringe.
He talked about Sammy Sosa and Mike McGwire.
Yeah.
It's like, no.
Yeah.
Missed on both of those.
It'd be like us sitting on CNN breaking down some
That would
sort
be
of
bad.
politics when
Be
when
bad.
they try and break down sports.
That would
Pretty
be
good.
bad.
Yeah.
All right, so we continue with
Off the top.
sticking with baseball. Again, Hembo wrote off the top today.
He did. Yeah, he
the
did.
final playoff spot, second NL wild card, and final division up for grabs, AL East, can each be decided. Friday, Rockies can clinch the second wild card in the NL with a win against the Dodgers and a Brewers loss against the Cardinals. And, of course, the Red Sox can clinch the AL East even before they play the Yankees. If the Yankees lose to the Blue Jays.
And Hembo, with Stanton, he's not going to win NL MVP, right?
He's not the favorite, but he certainly could. Nolan Arenado was likely to win that award.
Yeah, I think so. And so we'll see. We'll see if the Rockies can clinch that second wild card spot again with that win against the Dodgers and the Brewers' loss against the Cardinals. So we're setting everything up for the big one-game wild card next week.
Well, it is interesting. Baseball's done this second wild card to make the last weekend exciting. Right. And it's pretty much taken all the excitement out of it this week because it's all going to be decided.
It's all going to be decided.
Yeah,
we were hoping for that American League 7-way tie for the last wild card spot, just to see what the algorithms would say.
What would they do?
Yeah.
How would it play out? So that's baseball. And thankfully, we're moving on to something else.
Off the top.
Wow. Team Hembo, though. Team Hembo for life. My ride or die. Here we go. Fifth-ranked USC carries a 13-game winning streak into Friday's Pac-12 showdown at number 16 Washington State. The last time the Trojans lost was also the last time they played on a Friday night. Just saying, September 23rd, 2016 at Utah.
Yeah, the Washington State's going to be looking to do something they haven't done before, beat a top-5 USC team. Washington State is 0-12 in such games and has been outscored by an average of 25 points per game. Only one of those 12 games were decided by fewer than 10 points. A lot of people like SC Trey this year to make it into the Final Four. Right now, 4-0, but the defense has given up over 20 points in all four of those games. A little worrisome there. Sam Darnold, the presumptive number one pick probably, it's made some bad decisions at times. He's still
young.
I like the way he throws the ball. He, Rosen, Allen, the guy, all the quarterbacks that we're talking about, Mason Rudolph as well. Lamar Jackson, he's up on the big boards now as well. But with Darnold seeming to be that number one guy, so you really obviously are breaking all these guys down. And some of the decision-making has been questionable, but I do like him. A lot of people liked USC. It has been a little surprising the points they've given up in each game.
Well, it is interesting when you talk about those quarterbacks. Every one of those quarterbacks has had that game so far this season where you go, yeah, but.
Yeah.
Yep. So, look, all these kids are so young.
Yes, they are.
And you hear these things, oh, he's going to be this, he's going to be that, and you forget that they're literally kids out there still, and there's a lot of maturing on the field and off the field that they still have to go through. This could be one of the greatest quarterback drafts coming up in April that we've had in a long time.
A lot of people projecting that. We've got 2 rookie quarterbacks starting right now, possibly a third.
We'll get to that in a minute.
We'll get to that, in a sec.
But it's interesting because everybody has had some hiccups already,
and
you're just waiting to see who looks the steadiest throughout the entire season.
Off the top.
We roll on with Off the Top, and this is interesting. The NBA's Board of Governors voted Thursday to pass legislation on draft lottery reform and guidelines for resting healthy players in the regular season. This, according to Wojo. The biggest portion of the lottery reform is redistribution of the odds for the top overall pick.
The teams, when they were talking about this, we brought it up. Teams with the 3 worst records will all have the same chance at getting the top overall pick, as opposed to how it was. The current system, the worst team had a 25% chance of getting the top pick. The second worst team, 19.9, and third worst, 15.6. Now they all have a 14% chance. Is it really doing anything?
I don't know.
I mean,
honestly, I don't know. I mean, this
is
sounds
that really helping?
It sounds good, but
so now you don't have to worry about tanking to be the absolute worst, but now just make sure you're
get in the bottom 5,
bottom three.
Just get there and tank to that.
I don't really know if this is serving a purpose. I'll be honest with you. And as far as finding teams, Stern did that. David Stern has already done that, did he not? He has done that before to teams. You're talking about if you're resting players on big TV nights that aren't injured. That I guess now it's in writing. I don't know if it wasn't before.
It was thought to be, presumed to be in writing
for the good of the NBA,
changed,
and all that. But as far as I don't really know if this has done a ton for the draft. Right now, it's just, okay, just don't tank to be the worst. Just tank to be one of the top 3 worst.
So if you think about it, the unintended consequence here could be more tanking to get into the bottom
three.
The bottom three. If you can't get to one, be 2 or 3.
If you're the 4th worst and you say, I don't have a shot to be the absolute worst, but you know what? I only have to drop one spot, and now I can have an even chance to get the number 1 pick. So
I mean, look,
I don't really think this has done anything, unless I'm missing something, which is not shocking if I would be.
I was about to say, way to leave that one wide open for me. Mm-hmm. But look, you're right. There's no perfect way to do this.
No.
So you admire the effort, I guess, for trying to massage the system a little bit. But to what we just said, basically the way to get around this is now just be one of the top 3.
Top 3.
Or bottom 3.
Bottom 3.
Yeah, which is really the top 3.
Yeah, exactly right.
So the whole thing, we're through the looking glass. Up is down, left is right. That's the problem here.
I'm so confused.
Yeah, I just go back to Dave DeBuscher taking Patrick Ewing with the first lottery. We continue with
Off the top.
All right, in the great sport of golf.
Oh, God.
One of the greatest things that's ever happened to hit a ball with a crooked stick into a gopher hole, as the late Robin Williams once said in a great rant ever on golf. If you haven't ever looked at it, YouTube it. The U.S. jumped out to a 3.5 to 1.5 lead at day 1 of the President's Cup. The U.S. has never lost the event when leading after the first day 7-0.
Louis Oosthuizen and Brandon Grace are the only international team that got an actual point, as it's 3.5 to 1.5. So, and I love the stat about we win if we're up. The U.S. We've won almost all these anyway. I mean, this has really not been 98 the last time the internet. Is that true? The last time they won, I believe.
Sure, it's not that long ago, but it might be.
I think that's what we had said yesterday. I'd forgotten because we were talking about golf, which is, that's going to come up later.
We'll get into this later.
Yes, we will.
We're not doing this now.
We're beefing.
We are, but we're going to finish up.
Yeah.
Off the top.
The Packers beat the Bears on Thursday night to take a 95-94 with 6 ties lead in the all-time series. Green Bay's first series lead since, wait for this, 1933.
That's just
crazy.
When you were hoping for we got a good game last Thursday, at least if you were an offensive player. If you were in defensive meetings, you didn't. What was it, 41-39 last week? So you were kind of hoping for that here, a Thursday night game. The Bears, while obviously underdogged and should be in this game, had played well against Atlanta in that loss on opening day, had beaten Pittsburgh in overtime. So you hoped they would come and come to the table a little more here. Man. From play 1, their first play, the sack fumble and 2 interceptions.
Their one play, and then they were down 14-0 after their one play.
Was absolutely ugly. And, we'll obviously talk about the game, but certainly there was a pall over the stadium when it was Devontae Adams took that hit by Danny Trevathan in the third quarter that left him. I mean, you could tell. Something can be bad on the field when players immediately look to the sideline and start waving people in, and they ended up taking Adams off in a stretcher. He was moving all his extremities, so that was the great news. So we'll certainly find out more and more. But we'll get into this game. But that was a part of it. Really, it's a reality check of the game. And I know there's a lot of talk of the game and head injuries and things like that. But when I was playing, there was a lot more of that, Trey, where guys weren't moving on the field and we're getting taken off in stretchers and ended up with paralysis. And it is an alarming thing to look at. We're dealing with the head injuries now that can affect people later in life. This is the immediate effect if you see somebody laying there, not moving for a time and going, oh, my God. Yeah. And then after everything is done and they're stretchered off the field, you have to go play. Yeah. You have to go back on the field and play. This is the immediacy of why you hear so many players when we're talking about protecting the head now. The receivers are still saying, hit me in the head instead of the knee. Yeah. The knee, I'm laying there on the turf with my knee blown out and I know I'm out for a year. I'd rather take the hit up high. And as we're finding out more and more, as we keep gathering that information of obviously the damning side of that. But players also live in the moment of the immediacy of laying there with something blown out, knowing you're going to be out for a year, or a guy laying on the field motionless and everybody frantically, looking at the sidelines, telling people to get in here to look at him. That was a scary, scary moment last night.
Oh, look, there's no question. And that was Mike and Mike presented by Progressive Insurance. You could save hundreds on your car, business, or recreational vehicle insurance from a local independent agent. Go to Progressive.com today. Now that's Progressive. And, the NFL, Mike, is trying to be progressive.
Yes.
And legislating these kind of hits out of the game as much as they can. In fact, there was a new rule put in place this year where not only is that a 15-yard penalty, which it was in the game last night, that could have been an automatic ejection.
Yes.
Now, as a former player, and look, I think everybody understands to some degree the idea that, okay, things happen very quickly on a football field. And you see that hit in slow motion, and you're like, oh, my gosh, how did he do this? Then you see it in real time. And, look, Devontae Adams, his momentum had stopped.
Yeah.
And he was sort of being held up there. And then at the last second, he sinks a little bit, and Trevathan is coming in. I'm not excusing the hit. I want to be clear about that.
Right.
I'm not excusing the hit. But I think people have a hard time understanding sometimes how quickly these things happen. And one guy moves 1 inch lower 1 second, and there's almost nothing you can do. So I guess the question to you is, as a former defensive player in the NFL, knowing the rule as it's currently written right now, do you think that would have been worthy of an ejection?
Here's my answer to that, and I guess I would go to and here's what I don't know. In college with the targeting rule, they're allowed to go to replay. They make the call, and then they actually go to replay and look at it,
right,
and then call targeting or not. And, I don't like that rule. I don't like them tossing guys, especially for some. You can see the apparent, oh, yeah, that's worthy of the targeting rule, and you can see others where you're just like, come on, there's no way that was the intention.
What about that?
So this is what I don't know. First off, I'll say about the ejection. I don't know in the NFL. Here's how the rule reads. During the offseason, the NFL Competition Committee announced that certain illegal hits previously punishable by a 15-yard penalty will be subject to immediate ejection and or suspension on first offense. What I don't know, and this is going into my answer, Trey, is can they review that? Because you heard from the pool reporter who talked to the official last night saying, I didn't see enough evidence during the play to call it egregious enough to throw him out. So I don't know if they can look at it. I honestly do not know the answer to that question. So if we can find that out, if you can go to replay, then you may see it and say, okay, I'm going to toss him. But if he can't go to replay, it's very difficult because you just said it and you're right. We got to see that in slow motion 100 times already. But you're seeing it when you're seeing it for the first time as a bang-bang play and then trying to make the assertion that it was egregious enough to throw him out. That's a little more difficult. So I don't know if they can – if you can't have replay on that, I can see why they did not throw him out. Well, and listen, he's going to get fined and possibly suspended for this. The thing he did – and let me also say, this is another improvement in the game that they're making. As long as taking the launching out and the headshot, sometimes I say it goes too far at times, but that's what they have to. That's where they felt they had to go, and players had to adjust to it. So they're trying to do that. This type of hit, Trey, when I was playing, you salivated for a hit like this. A guy stopped and a sitting duck. Yeah. You came in there and you tried to destroy him. This was the mentality that we played with. So in that case, are there going to be those that say, hey, man, this is football. You're not down yet. You can get hit by anybody. You can, as hard as you want. And that's what we did. We tried to destroy they're hard enough to hit when they're running where guys the ball is moving. Now he's held up by two teammates. You come in and you try and absolutely drill. I'm telling you how it was, and I'm telling you guys dropped their helmets then, and they tried to destroy a guy. Wow. So where we are now with that, I'm glad Danny Trevathan, while he put his arms out, he dropped his head down. He did drop his head down, and he went head-to-head on basically a stationary guy with the ball who had the ball. That was a bad hit, and I can see getting that hit out of a game.
Yeah.
You can go in and hit the guy as hard as you want with your shoulder and such. I believe in getting the head out of the game. I do. As we gather information, and we're still doing that, one thing we know, repeated hits to the head, even in practice or the game, at the end of the day is not going to be great for you, as we're learning more and more of. So we're trying to take the head out of tackling, heads of football at youth league, the way the Seattle Seahawks, do their tackling more of a rugby style. Keep your head out of the action. So in this case, that's what you need to do. You can come in and get that shot. You still can. That shouldn't be outlawed.
No.
I mean, the whistle hadn't blown. The whistle doesn't blow. You can get hit. Okay? Now it's how you get hit. And don't ask a player to hold up on a hit because somebody else may come and wipe him out. If the whistle doesn't blow, man, you got to keep playing. But there are ways to keep playing, and right now, and dropping your head and drilling someone like that is that's something that's going to need to continue to try to be put out of this game.
Well, see what you hit. That's what everyone wants to try and say. And look, the other thing, whether or not he could have been ejected from the game, the next thing, he could be suspended for the next game.
Right.
That's the way the rule goes. That hit will be reviewed in deciding when he's going to get fined for that hit.
He's going to get fined for sure.
I think he has a pretty good chance of being suspended for the next game, which would be the Monday night game against the Minnesota Vikings.
We'll see. And I don't think they can review the play. So if they can't review it, then I can understand them not throwing him out.
Right, but the tensions were high on the field after that hit, obviously because, like you said, you're a Packers teammate. You see your teammate laid out on the field like that, and there were some people that thought some of the Bears defenders were celebrating that hit a little too much. Martellus Bennett had some choice words after the game, as did quarterback Aaron Rodgers.
Aaron, after the hit on Devontae, it looked like you, I don't know, either took exception or you had something to say to some of the Bears players. What was going on?
I don't like anybody celebrating when a guy gets carted off the field. That's kind of the message I was conveying to them.
All right. First thing I have to say is I don't think anybody was doing a dance and celebrating when he's getting carted off the field. So let's not get out of context there, Aaron. That's what I'll say first. When you get a big hit on the field, it gets celebrated. Because you don't know immediately. Now, from the Packers side of it, they were calling in people right away. But that was a big hit, and that was being celebrated. As soon as guys saw what was going on, listen, they calmed down. When the medical staff was running out, do we see anybody jumping up and down? If you get a chance to watch it. Anybody on the Bears? When that medical staff is running on, do we see any Bears celebrating at that point?
No.
But that initial hit, you don't know the guy is hurt that bad. So you hit the guy, and you get up and you feel you got a good hit, and you celebrate that, and that jacks everybody up. But I didn't see anybody there celebrating when they saw the medical staff running on and him getting checked out. So there's a line there. And certainly, Aaron Rodgers, he gave the thought there that I don't like anybody cheering when someone's getting carted off the field. Not a damn person was cheering or jumping up and down when Davante Adams was actually getting stretchered off the field. So let's not give the wrong impression here. Because, listen, I don't want to see anybody carted off the field, but it's also a big hit in a game that before you knew it was flagged, it was a hit, and the emotion is like, yeah, what a big hit, and everybody's, oh, man, that was a great hit. And then you see a guy laying there, and you're like, okay, all right, we got to make sure this guy is all right.
Right, but you could understand how Aaron would feel differently because all he sees is his teammate laid out and he sees somebody celebrating. Not saying, and
I'm with you.
Yeah, I think his reaction is normal.
I agree. The reaction on the defensive of a big hit is normal, and the reaction of a guy laying there and his teammates is normal as well. I did that with Jeff Hostetler. I had Hostetler on the chin. He didn't, and I got up and I was celebrating a hit, and he was laying there. I didn't know he was laying there at first.
You're a horrible person.
Next thing you know, the old lineman's starting to fight with me, because the guy's laying there. And listen, once he's laying there, I'm like, okay, I'm not celebrating anymore.
Right.
And and luckily he moved everything. As they had to cart him off the field, but he was moving everything because people always ask me, how do you feel about that? I said, listen, knowing he was moving everything and Davante Adams was moving as well, that at least from that standpoint, it makes you breathe a little bit of a sigh of relief.
Absolutely. So the good news is that the Packers won the game, but they continue to get banged up.
The best of Mike and Mike.
Time for Straight Talk, brought to you by Straight Talk Wireless. Best phones, best networks, no contracts. And, Mike, the Straight Talk in Chicago this morning is it time for Mitchell Trubisky?
Yeah, that is the talk. So the first play of the game, you had the fumble.
The first play of the game.
First play of the game. Fumble. Glennon, did he hold on to the ball too long?
Yes.
You have Clay Matthews, who was rushing from the side that Glennon was from Glennon's right side. Do you have awareness that he was there? Next thing you know, Clay Matthews knocks the ball up, becomes the all-time sack leader in the Green Bay Packers. And first play, it's a fumble for the Bears. Couple of interceptions. The second fumble, I'm not blaming him. He gave, the snap went into his shins a little bit. There was a little bit of an issue between the guard telling the center when to snap and the leg kick of the quarterback. Either way, it was a fumble. 2 interceptions, overthrows on Glennon without question. As I forgot who it was, talking about the thing with Glennon and when you go to Trubisky. And to me, the main thing is going to end up being turnovers because Trubisky.
Well, he had 4 of them in the game.
Well, I'm not counting the snap that went into his shins as his fault.
3. Yes, you can count it as his fault because he's so freakishly tall. If he were a normal-sized quarterback, that would not have been a problem. So it is his fault because he's a giraffe.
There you go. It was Herm Edwards who said, I can get a rookie quarterback to come in and turn the ball over. but I know what he's saying, so why not have the rookie quarterback in there learning with reps? He'll turn the ball over some. Well, Glennon's turning the ball over some, so what's the difference at this point? Glennon ended up throwing for over 200 yards, but he had those 2 interceptions. He had, 22 of 33 or something, or right in that area.
21 of 33,
21 of
218 yards.
1 touchdown, sacked 3 times, 2 interceptions. Yeah. So it's the turnovers that eventually, and certainly the way the season is going, to where you say, okay, when do we make this move? As far as I'm concerned, I think you're kind of there. I think the off-target throws and interceptions where Glennon is near the top of the league pretty much says just what Herm said. My rookie quarterback can come in and do that. And then he can learn along the way. I understand quarterbacks sitting and what they can learn by watching. I get it. And then there's a point where you say, okay, now we need to get on the field. I'm not sitting here saying Mitch Trubisky is ready, 100% ready just to go step on the field. But if the coaching staff thinks that he can get enough of the game plan, is doing well enough in practice and recognitions, because he's not getting a ton of reps as the number 2 quarterback. Number 1 gets the bulk of the reps. Do you make that move? And now what you have?
A little extra time.
10 days.
You got a home game. But here's the question. That next home game will be a Monday night game.
Yeah.
And look, it probably shouldn't matter, but sometimes it does.
At some point, you have to stop worrying about, because I'm with you.
Yeah.
What defense are they playing? How much time do you have to prepare? Is it a highlighted game? I get all that. Yeah. At some point, you just got to say, you know what?
Go play.
It's time to do it.
Yeah.
We're confident in what we're seeing out of you in practice, in the film room, in walkthroughs. So now what are we getting out of the guy we have out there? Well, we're turning the ball over in bad ways at times. So I think we're about there. And I would not be shocked if the move was made, and I would have no problem right now if the move was made.
John Fox obviously was asked about that after the game, and this is exactly what he had to say.
We evaluate every day, so it's not going to be a new novelty. It's just that obviously we have to fix some things on our football team. Right now we're 1-3 to start the season. So not just the quarterback. Everybody just wants to talk about the quarterback. We got more issues than quarterback.
Oh, that's true.
That may be true, but the biggest issue is almost as big as the logo on John Fox's sweater. Was that the biggest logo you've ever seen?
I do like it, though.
It was huge.
Yeah, it was huge. I do like it, though. But he's right. I mean, you're 1-3. You have bigger issues than just the quarterback. But again, as Herm Edwards said, when he made his switch from Vinny to I think it was Vinny to Chad, was it not? It was, I can change the left tackle, I can change, the defensive tackle or a cornerback, but changing the quarterback is what's going to look like we're, are we trying to go in a different direction here, the guy that can have the most influence on the game. So I would have no problem if they went that move. Yeah. Would you? Do you think it's going to happen?
I think it probably is.
Yeah.
Look, I mean, because of the way that played out on a nationally televised game, it's going to be hard to say, to what Herm has said and what you said, how could it be worse?
Yeah.
How could it? And it might be.
It might be.
It's certainly possible.
Yes.
But if you're a fan of the Bears, and their reactions on Twitter last night were hilarious.
Yeah.
They were very good. You are saying to yourself, what else do we need to see? Because you have a good running game. Jordan Howard and that kid Tariq Cohen, you like them a lot. You believe your defense can keep you in games a few times, like they did against the Pittsburgh Steelers the previous week.
When Atlanta, they had a chance to win that one.
Down the stretch, they had the Killer Bees in control pretty much. And you're right. They had a couple of drops, actually in that game against Atlanta, week 1. So if you've seen these other things and you traded up for a reason. Remember, they went all the way up to 2 to get this guy, Mitchell Trubisky. It does seem like it's the right time. Mike and Mike, nay, Golic and Wingo, presented by Progressive, and on the all phone guests appear on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. We're presented by Progressive Insurance. And again, tweet us at 1-800-Flowers.com Twitter feed. We'll get to those in a minute. But it certainly seems like this would be, if it's not the actual bye week, then putting him in during this mini bye when there's still a chance to see maybe if he could turn the tide for the season, right?
Yeah, I would think that. And at this point, I think it all depends on where you are with him. And so, again, they host the Minnesota Vikings, as you said, and Minnesota's got a good defense. We understand that. But I do believe it is on where do you think Mitch is. All right, we kind of knew Glennon before he got to the Bears,
right?
But you were willing to see how well he was going to do. We knew he was a bridge. It's just how long and stable was the bridge, correct?
Glennon is a very long bridge. I think
a long bridge.
We've established that. He might be the longest bridge in the NFL.
Unfortunately, the stability of the bridge isn't showing very well.
Swaying
right now.
A little in the breeze.
It is. So, but it has to be. It can't be, well, Glennon's not playing well enough and turning the ball over. And as Herm said, I can get a rookie to turn the ball over. It has to be, is Mitch Trubisky at a position where if we put him out on the field, he's not going to be a deer in headlights? Is he going to fully grasp this isn't preseason anymore? This is a regular season. There is definitely another step up. They're not vanilla defenses that you look at. There'll be more intricate defenses that you're going to be looking at. Is he ready for that? And if John Fox and their staff can say,
and Minnesota, as you said, is a very,
very good defense. But if you can say, you know what, he's shown us everything we need to see, except what you can do in a game because he hasn't been in a game, then I think it's time you go ahead and make that switch.
Yeah, it is interesting. By the way, he's 27th in total QBR out of the 33, 32. Okay, there's some because sometimes you get some other ones that are qualified of the 32 quarterbacks there. So you're not getting the production you would like to have gotten. By the way, I've got this mental image in my head now. When you said bridge, all I can think of, and then I said swaying in the breeze. You seen that footage of the first ever suspension bridge ever built? And and it's just going back and forth. Like, I'm not driving across that thing.
It's kind of the bridge we have right now.
That's kind of the bridge they've got in Chicago.
Kind of swaying.
It's there, but it's moving way too much left and right.
If it's a windy day in the Windy City, that's going to be trouble.
No, that's not the bridge you're looking for. Sort of quote my good friend Teddy Bruschi.
Home isn't just a place, it's a feeling that you're safe to enjoy the things that matter most. ADT lets you take that feeling with you. Whether you're at home, your business, or online, we help keep you safe. With security systems, home automation, alarms, and surveillance, so you can feel at home wherever you are. Go to ADT.com to get that feeling for less than $1 a day. ADT, home, safe home.
Daddy, where do babies come from?
Honey?
Mommy went to the store.
Oh, well, you see, there's a mommy and a daddy, right?
Right.
And see, when they call Geico, they could save a bunch of money on car insurance.
Oh, really? And that makes them happy?
Yes, that makes them very happy.
That's good.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad we could have this talk, Sunshine.
Geico, because saving 15% or more on car insurance is always a great answer.
A couple of tweets about,
Go ahead.
About the hit before we yell at
Do
one
what
another.
You must.
About the hit last night that Danny Trevathan had on Devontae Adams, that had a stretcher had to come in. Medical staff came out right away. He was moving all his extremities, and there is a rule this year that if the referee feels there is an egregious hit,
catastrophic,
on a play,
I think is the word,
catastrophic, that they can eject the player immediately from the game.
Every time I see it,
the one thing is you cannot review it, much like in college where you can review the targeting call and really break down the play and decide if you're going to throw out the player or not. You can't in the NFL. It's not reviewable. It has to be seen in normal speed and right away. And the official last night, according to the pool reporter, said, you know what, I didn't have enough info on that or to see that if it was egregious enough. We can all see it in slow motion, whether to throw him out of the game. And about that hit, the way I had talked about, Joe says mockingly to me, way to stand up for the defensive players. Maybe the Bear player didn't intend to hit him in the head. It's a full-speed game. I get that. It has nothing to do. Unfortunately, he hit him in the head. The bottom line is Danny Trevathan dropped his head and led with his helmet. Right. That's the issue.
Yep.
That's the whole issue, whether he hit the guy in the head or not. You got to stop dropping your head. As I was playing it before, guys unfortunately were becoming, paralyzed for that or had spinal injuries, and now we're seeing more and more with the head injuries. You got to stop dropping your head and leading with your head, and that's what he did.
Yep.
And then maybe one of the weirdest tweets of all time, Greg said, "The ball becoming dead ends the play, not the whistle being blown."
No, actually the exact opposite.
Greg, I'm not sure what game you're watching or what you think players are doing out there, but you play to the whistle.
Oh, by the way,
that's what you play to.
You know what? You know what calls the ball dead?
What's that?
The whistle.
The whistle.
Yeah.
The
whistle calls the ball
ends
dead.
The play.
Yeah.
You can play up to the whistle.
Or at some points in some teams, the echo of the whistle. Is
Yeah,
that
well,
you want to
there
coach
you
to the
go.
echo of the whistle? One last tweet on this, and then we'll get to our fight. O.H. Bucknut says, Vontaze Burfict, and I probably don't know if I can even say that on the air. Vontaze Burfict was suspended 3 games for a clean hit. This was dirty. Now, it was a hit that was not penalized in Vontaze Burfict's game. But that's a fair point. I mean, if that's going to be the level for a 3-game suspension, that seems like it might be the parameters for what may be coming for Trey.
I have a and listen, if again, we keep talking about, are they serious about player safety and getting the helmet out of the game? Then you wonder where this will go. Will it lead to a suspension? You want players to stop dropping their heads and leading with their helmets.
Yeah.
And Trevathan, while it's what he did last night.
No question.
It's what he did, and that's something that needs to be stopped.
Okay, you and I this is going to be throughout the show now. We're starting it now.
Yep.
We're going to fight throughout the morning.
Yes, we are.
It's really not the way I wanted to start my Friday.
It's okay.
But I blame
the
the
truth?
Brits. No, I blame the Brits.
Whatever.
They've taken a Brexit from their senses.
Okay.
Is exactly what's happened here. What was it? The Daily Mail? Is that what it is? The Daily Mail polled 2,000.
2,000 people.
2,000 is way too small for a list like
I was
this.
going to say, it's not a bad sample
They
size.
came up with the 30 most boring games in the world.
30 most boring games.
Yeah, and first of all, you can make an issue whether or not it's a game or a sport.
Right.
But some of the things that were on here were things that we didn't know, like netball.
Netball is on there. Netball is in the 20s as far as most boring.
It's like basketball light, right?
It's basketball like without the backboard.
Yeah.
It's like a pole with a net on it, and you can't have the ball for more than 3 seconds before you have to pass
Didn't know it existed. They had something called draughts.
No, it's called drafts.
Oh, it is called drafts?
It's actually drafts. It's DRAUGHTS.
I like draughts.
Which is, let's go with
Checkers.
draught. It's checkers.
Okay.
It's exactly
Pretty
what it
boring.
is. Checkers. It was, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 11th on the list.
10-pin bowling.
10-pin bowling is on there.
Tennis is on the list.
Tennis is on the list. Soccer is
Ultimate
on the list.
Frisbee.
Yeah.
American football.
American football is about halfway down. I think they were 16th.
But Mike at the top of the
Show
list.
jumping is on the list. Dressage is on the list.
Snooker.
All these are on the list, but they aren't number one.
Yeah.
The number one most boring game in the world, according to this poll, and I think correctly so, is golf.
Sacrilege.
Golf.
Sacrilege.
Is the most boring sport according to these 2,000 people.
Well, first of all, they're calling it a game, not a sport.
Game, sorry.
So your passion for that was just undercut by your words.
Whatever.
However, this is abhorrent. This is why the Brits have lost their senses. They are the holders of the oldest championship in the world. The Open Championship. Young Tom Morris, old Tom Morris, the championship belt, the claret jug. It's the greatest. It's the drama we saw at the British Open this year when Jordan Spieth went 4 under through 3 holes to come back after that bogey. And now you guys are telling me this is the most boring game in the world? Sacrilege. It's ridiculous.
Most boring game.
Not even close.
From 10 on down. We'll get into some of the other sports.
Not even close.
10 on down. 10 is listed here as football, but it's soccer because American football is later. So soccer, bowls. I don't know what bowls is. We're going to have to look that one up. B-O.
What's the difference between bowls and 10-pin bowling?
I don't know. Bowls. Then number 8 is darts. 7.
Would you rather watch a darts tournament than a golf tournament?
Darts, by far.
You're lying right now.
Fishing.
You are absolutely.
And I love fish. Don't even get it started me about fishing. I love fishing.
No. Fishing is just a chance to pee in the water. That's all it is. You're sitting there having a beer and peeing in the water.
Dressage.
That's horse jumping.
Yes, snooker. Type of pool, type of billiards.
You would watch people.
Love billiards.
You would watch people play snooker as opposed to watch.
Yes, I would. Chess is number 4.
You're crazy.
Bridge is number 3.
This is insane.
Cricket is number 2, and number 1 by a long shot
is
golf.
The world is off its rocker. This is insane. We must stop this.
Boring.
The best of Mike and Mike.
Glad you're with us on a Friday morning. Trey Wingo, Mike Golic in. We are on ESPN Radio and ESPN2, presented by Progressive Insurance. All phone guests will appear via the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. In a few minutes, we'll have Peter King from the MMQB and Sports Illustrated join us to talk about all things football. But, Mike, we ended the last segment.
We did.
With a fight that's going to go all day.
It is. There was a
list
survey in the UK of 2,000 people.
Daily Mail,
2,000 people of the top 30 most boring games in the world. So these are a combination of games and sports. And according to these 2,000 people, they chose the 30 most boring games in the world, all the way from number 30 being diving to number 1 being golf, to which I applaud them for how accurate they are, and you are not very happy about that.
Well, I think you, like all the Brits, are now insane. I think you've all collectively lost your yarbles.
There's a few on here we had to look up, like drafts. It's spelled D-R-A-U-G-H.
I'm just going to call it draughts because I think that sounds more British.
It's actually checkers. Yeah. And then netball, which began in England in the 1890s, is like basketball without the backboard, and you can't hold the ball for more
It's like
than
basketball
3 seconds.
light. Maybe this would explain why the Brits are so bad at basketball.
There you go.
Because they think it's netball.
They think it's netball.
They're very confused.
And there was another sport that came in on number 9 on the list called bowls, B-O-W-L-S, and that is basically like bocce ball, like lawn bowling, which I love, by the way.
You'd rather watch bocce than golf?
I'd rather watch the good ones do it, yeah.
The good bocce players?
Oh, yeah.
And you know enough about bocce to know which ones are the good ones.
Are you kidding me?
Yes, I think you're kidding me.
You can tell right away.
I'm 100% certain
you can tell
kidding.
right away.
Based on what?
And a lot of people...
Based on the arc of the throw? What is it?
Listen, at one point I was one of the great athletes in the world, okay, when I was a professional player.
And then you woke up.
So for people like us...
And then the dream ended.
For people like us...
Literally, the dream ended and you got out of bed.
Yeah. People like us, and I know you wouldn't understand this.
No, that's true.
We have this sense, about athletes and athletics.
So as you're sensing great bocce players, what are the little things that hit your little radars that make you think this is a good bocce player?
How well they balance holding the beer in one hand and the ball in the other hand.
I thought you just said in the last hour, if you could do something drunk, it invalidates it.
No. I said that's the difference between a game and a sport.
All right. See, all these great theories of yours are getting lost in my head.
Drunk when you do it. Isn't that the way we should differentiate?
Honestly, that's a very good point, and I'm not against that in any way, shape, or form. I want to be clear.
Cricket is number 2. I like watching cricket, but in reading about this list, the explanation was nobody understands the rules of cricket.
That is 100% true.
The game can go on for like 3 days.
And the score is 157,000 under 75 minus 12.
I think it's cool to watch, but I have no clue what I'm watching.
Look, we're getting a lot of tweets on this, and keep hitting us at the 1-800-Flowers.com Twitter feed. This weekend, win on the field and at home with bouquets from 1-800-Flowers.com. When you order a dozen multicolored roses for $29.99, you get an extra bouquet and a vase for free. Go to 1-800-Flowers.com/ESPN. So we're getting a lot of tweets on this, but this is a British list, right?
It's
a British list.
Yes.
So how can you have a British list that says cricket is the second most boring game in the world, and football, or as they call it, or as we call it, soccer, is what, 10th or 11th?
Number 10.
I thought they all love soccer over there.
That's why you know what you're getting out of these people?
It's a bad list.
You know what you're getting out of these people?
What?
The truth and how they really
You know
feel.
what? You know what you're talking about? How you differentiate between a game and a sport if you can do it drunk? Mm-hmm. They did this list drunk.
No.
This is a bad list. This is a list of drunken ridiculousness. I mean, for crying out loud, any list that has American football on it as one of the 30 most boring games in the world, invalidated.
Yeah, it's number 16.
Invalidated.
Rugby's on there, tennis, boxing, fencing, water polo, archery, gymnastics. But, I do have some questions about the lists, and certainly you can add your own on Twitter to us at Mike and Mike.
We got someone here.
Yeah.
This guy says, how did curling not make the list? Curling did make the list. Curling is 30-20. It's like in the late teens, early 20s.
Yeah, curling is on the list.
But curling is essentially taking a large stone and brooming shavings out.
Love it.
And you'd rather watch that than golf. I think
curling.
you are lying right now.
I am not
You are
lying.
lying to America.
I love curling.
You do not. You've never curled in your life.
I have not, and I want to
curl. There it is. I love curling, but I've never curled in my life.
All I know is when
your own words trap your argument.
When the Winter Olympics come around.
You're in a glass cage of emotion right now.
I watch curling, and you know what I don't do when I watch curling?
Yeah.
Fall asleep. Yeah. You know what I do when I'm watching golf? That's nap time.
Oh, that's probably because you're already 3 or 4 swing oils in from your couch. By the way, somebody does agree with you here. Mm-hmm. Lance Holden said, agreed, golf is the most boring game ever. Lance, you are never getting a bobblehead.
Thanks, Lance.
Never happening.
We'll send one your way.
I love this one, though. J.P. Swain, I just like that name, says, bowls is lawn bowling, like curling, but with balls. And then this one also, the other one, the most boring game, handball? Handball's
like
not
handball.
boring.
Quite honestly,
handball's fun.
I don't know how, chess can't be number one. I mean, I don't know how chess and or drafts, which is really checkers, really you would think those would be right up there at like 1 and 2. So I would have to agree with you. But I just enjoy so much the fact of how angry you get when anybody
I'm very angry
bad about your sport of golf.
I'm very,
especially when we had the argument where I said the hardest thing to do in sports is hit a baseball off a major league pitcher, and you said the second hardest is putting a golf ball where you want it, which always made me throw up.
Well,
and made me rethink this whole future relationship.
Yeah, you don't get it saying that anymore.
It doesn't seem so. I'm going to say a lot.
Ink signed. Paper's done. Well, although every athlete we've had on, like Ray Allen, agreed with me. He said it was the second hardest thing they've ever tried to do, besides their natural sport.
I don't think golf is that hard.
Yeah. Well, I've seen your swing, and yet for you it's hard.
I mean,
I've seen your swing.
I'm not really trying to shoot like
good,
a great
because
score.
it certainly looked like it. Then you know what? You accomplished your goal. Congratulations. And we need to move on to more important goals, like our next guest.
Yeah.
The MMQB's Peter King joins us on the Shell Pennzoil Performance line, taking synthetic motor oil performance to a whole new level. Make the switch to Pennzoil Synthetics today. Peter, thanks for putting up with our ridiculous list. How are you?
I love banter, Trey. How are you?
Very well, very well. So there's a lot of banter right now, Peter, in the city of Chicago. Is it time to scratch the itch for Mitch after what we saw last night?
I think the only way you know that is to find out from Dowell Loggins, John Fox, the coaching staff, how is Mitchell Trubisky playing in practice? Is he ready? It's easy to say once you see a lot of coaches playing quarterbacks, Deshaun Kaiser and Deshaun Watson, early and having some success where they are. It's easy to say, hey, just put the rookie in. But I think the only question you ask yourself if you're running the Chicago Bears is this. What is the best thing to do for our team for opening day 2018? You know that you're not going to the playoffs this year. You know you're not going to have a particularly great year. And you just want to make sure that you put your quarterback for 2018, who everybody assumes is Trubisky, you put him in when he's ready. And so that would be my overriding question. If he is ready, then I think whether it be, Game 5, Game 6, time is coming very soon. Look, there's one really good drive led by the quarterback last night. There was another really good drive led by Howard, the running back last night. But obviously, Glennon has not played well enough in the first 4 or 5 weeks of this season to merit keeping this job.
And Peter, I completely agree with you. I've said it for a while now. It all depends on the coaching staff's feeling of where Mitch Trubisky is. And who's going to know that better than anybody else is that offense that's practicing with the number one offense. Right. They're going to know if Mitchell is named the starter in a private moment. If they don't think he's ready, there's going to be a lot of, oh, man, are we in trouble? Or there could be, okay, let's see what the kid can do. So we'll see what happens. They have 10 days until they face Minnesota, get that extra day, Minnesota on Monday Night Football, if they're going to make the switch or not. Ugly moment in the game last night with Devontae Adams being carted off on a stretcher off the field after a hit by Danny Trevathan. And as I'd mentioned, Peter, that hit happened. It was commonplace when I was playing, guys being held up and then you can just tee off on them. It was a free hit. But now in wanting to get a headshot out of the game with Trevathan, who I'm not sitting here calling a dirty player by any stretch of the imagination, he did what all players would do. You got that shot, you're going to take that shot. But if you want to get the head dropping out of the game, and that's one of the things he did do, he dropped his head and he led with his helmet. Do you believe that the NFL is going to come down hard on him for this?
I believe they'll come down hard on him. I believe they'll suspend him. And I believe they will also ask the referee, John Hussey, why was he not ejected from the game? You're exactly right, Mike. When I started covering the NFL in 1984, that hit would be seen as, man, that's a little over the top, but that's football. Well, in the last X number of years, the NFL every year has made additional rules. Almost every year has made additional rules to try to get hits like that out of the game. And to me, it's a textbook example of why, if you watch the game today, many people will say, including moms and dads all over the country, would say that's the kind of hit that we think is just so over the top. It's why I'm not going to let my kid play football. And that might be unreasonable, but I hear it. I get letters to my column. To me, that hit has to be dealt with severely by the NFL, and not only to send a message, but to basically say this is totally in violation of our helmet-to-helmet rules, and we're not going to allow it.
Peter, along those lines, we saw a hit from Vontaze Burfict that was not flagged earlier this year that was a 3-game suspension for him. Now, granted, Vontaze has a long and illustrious past, if you will, with suspensions. But if that hit, which wasn't flagged and the ball was nowhere near it, was a 3-game suspension, if you're a Bears fan, are you thinking that might be the baseline for what we may be looking at here with Danny Trevathan?
Well, Trey, I think you just said it, that it's his long history. It was Burfict's long history. If he hadn't had that long history, maybe he would have gotten a game. Who knows what I don't know what would have happened to him. But in this particular case, Danny Trevathan, and again, I don't know if he's ever had any sort of fine or suspension for helmet-to-helmet hit. I mean, he hasn't had a suspension. But I don't know if he's had a fine. And to me, Danny Trevathan is a good football player,
no question,
and not a dirty football player. And so I think that is the difference. Everybody is just sort of looks at Burfict and they know that this is his history, but that's not the case with Trevathan.
And that's a great point, because Trevathan was actually the leading tackler for the Denver Broncos team, that defense in 2015 that essentially carried that team to a championship. That does need to be put into context.
Absolutely correct. Absolutely correct. As far as on the field, Peter, and we know the Bears, obviously, it certainly seems like they're going to struggle a lot this year, whereas we talk about the possibility of the quarterback change. Not so much in Green Bay. You know, Aaron Rodgers, you have him on your team, you have a chance to win. But you know, Bakhtiari, the one tackle, Balaga, the other tackle, missed the game last night. The other 3 backups tackles are on IR. You have 2 running backs that get hurt last night. Mike Daniels, one of the best interior linemen, still missing time. Is that going to be the undoing of this team? We know there's a mash unit every year in the NFL. Is this year, does it seem to be the Packers seem to have that moniker?
I think that's a great question. I think there isn't going to be a team over the next few weeks in the NFL who's going to be asked to be carried. That's going to be asked to be carried by the quarterback more than the Packers. And to me, I mean, I'm not saying that, well, Aaron Rodgers absolutely can do it. But the one point I would make about Rodgers' ability in this case is that he not only has a really good intermediate target in Martellus Bennett, and he also knows exactly how to use his running backs as well as any quarterback in football. And even when he gets down to the lower levels of running backs, you know, well beyond Ty Montgomery, because you got to figure he's going to miss a week or several weeks because of his rib injury. You know, I think now they're going to rely on Aaron Rodgers more than ever. Can he do it? The whole key is, in my opinion, you know, because now we see that, you know, Eli Manning has to throw the ball before he has 2 seconds, you know, before 2 seconds elapses after he gets the snap. Now the question is Aaron Rodgers going to get that 2.3, 2.5 seconds to at least be able to get the ball, say, to Martellus Bennett in the short and intermediate areas of the field? I think you need at least that much time. So that's the question I would ask right now with the Packers. But you're right. I mean, this is as bad an injury situation early in the year as Rodgers has had since he started starting in 2008.
Yeah, and we're not even talking about all the injuries to all their tackles.
Right. Well, no, I did. I brought it up. Both starting tackles out, and the
5 of them, I think, of all.
Yeah, both starting tackles, the 3 behind them are on IR. Yeah.
All right. Speaking of Rodgers, Peter, he came out this week with the statement, hey, look, we're going to lock arms for the anthem. We want the fans to lock arms with us to show unity, love, peace, and understanding of all issues. Obviously, what happened across the NFL landscape last weekend in reaction to what President Trump said was a huge story. And it's going to continue to be something that you guys did a great job on the MMQB monitoring that and chronicling it. The Saints have already come out and said what they're going to do in London this week. Drew Brees has tweeted this. They're going to do basically what the Cowboys did. They're going to kneel in unison before the anthem, then stand for the anthem. How much more do you think we're going to see of this as President Trump continues to sort of stoke the fires here?
I think a lot of the wildcatting, Trey, this week is going to be gone. I think a lot of NFL players feel that they made their point. And Trey, if you look at what was going on in Week 2 in the NFL, there was just a handful of players
14, I think. It was
demonstrating at all. Yeah, at all. And so, to me, when I look at what happened last weekend, that was directly because of a guy that most of these NFL players were very, very angry at, President Trump. And so I think now, from what I'm hearing, more and more teams are going to stand at attention for the anthem this week. And I also think that part of that is, and this I think is going to be developing in the coming days, maybe even the coming weeks, but I think that there is this understanding among some of the player leaders in this movement that the NFL is going to do something, is going to put a little bit of its money where the players want it to be, and that is to fund some programs in some of the cities in the NFL where players have been very, very vocal about let's try to improve relations between police and the citizens in these cities. And let's, like Doug Baldwin said it on CNN the other night, let's get the DARE program back in schools. And I know that people are kind of rolling their eyes, just play football, but this is really, really important right now to the players. And I think the NFL knows that it can not only do a community service, in doing some of these things that the players are recommended, but they can also get the players, back saluting the anthem, which to the NFL, I know, has to be the kind of big deal. It has to be such a big deal because clearly if it happens much longer, I do think there's going to be enough of a blowback from advertisers that the NFL is going to start to feel it.
Well, we'll see how this plays out going forward, but obviously there are other things that are going to be taking place and other steps, like Peter alluded to, that the players and the NFL will work together. Peter, we appreciate the time. Thanks very much.
All the best, guys. Thank you.
Peter King from the MQB.
So, Trey, is this over if no more players kneel? I mean, yeah. We've seen the first game. Both sides, interlocked arms, stood. We've heard Drew Brees say they're going to stand. We've heard Ben Roethlisberger.
They will, although they're going to kneel together before the anthem.
Well, and you brought up the point, and you're right. If you kneel before the anthem, before the flag is out, and before the anthem is played, and players kneel down, and as a fan you boo them, what exactly are you booing?
Because it can't be about the anthem anymore.
It can't be about you. People are booing and all upset because they're kneeling during the anthem when the flag is out and the song is playing. So if they kneel before any of that happens, then why are you booing? Right. If they end up standing for the anthem, someone's going to have to explain that part of it to me if, in fact, it happens. But if we start to see that, and the Cowboys did it first in that Monday nighter, they knelt before the flag of the anthem played, and then they all stood. If all the players stand now, are we past this?
Well, we might be. I mean, there are certain players, like we had Rashard Matthews, the wide receiver for the Titans, on NFL Live on Tuesday, and he said, I'm not going to stop kneeling until the president apologizes for using that language to call us all that.
Then he won't be. He'll be. I think if that in fact the case, he'll be kneeling a long time.
He'll be kneeling a very long time because I don't think that's what that guy does. He doesn't do a lot of that. But I think the whole point of this, and this is just my takeaway on it, the whole point of this is the players felt like they needed to spark something to get a conversation going. And clearly that has been the case.
Right.
And as Doug Baldwin said, as Peter alluded to, if they can bring something back in the schools. Malcolm Jenkins, the Eagles safety, who's been very vocal about this, he went this summer with some other players to talk to members of Congress about dealing with some of this stuff. And if we start to see actual action taking place, like what Doug Baldwin is talking about,
was fantastic.
And getting, more interaction. Brandon Marshall, the Broncos linebacker who knelt last year, then went and worked with the police in the Denver area to affect change. If that takes place, I think we will move past this to see actual progress on the issue that was really at the forefront of this.
Of why this all happened.
It was not about the flag. It was not about the anthem. It was a shock to the system.
But now that since so many people have said, well, even though you say it's not about the flag and the anthem, it's still disrespectful. So it seems like players are kind of, okay, kind of getting a lot of the backlash from it. So maybe they're thinking, well, let's show by locking the arms. Doesn't mean we're not still doing what we're doing. As you mentioned, a lot of players are doing things in their communities, but I wonder if the kneeling is coming to an end.
It might if the things that Peter was talking about do happen. I think the whole point of this, again, this is no one's told me this. Right. This is just me as an observation, right. to spark something, to get something done, and you can disagree with the way that, and that's fair and that's valid. But you also have to say it's valid to exercise a right. Right. That's a valid thing as well. And if this exercising of that right, which sparks some outrage, now comes into something that can actually be a good thing and affect change, then it's all been worth it.
Yeah,
it's all been worth it.
Because the other side of that isn't to say, okay, if we keep kneeling and people keep being
I don't want to talk about it.
We're losing the message then again. So we got the players got the message out there. So maybe they will start to stand. We're hearing more and more teams that say we're going to lock arms and we're going to stand for the national anthem. So I'm going to be interested where this goes because we know there's a lot of mad people, and I wonder if that will bring them back if the players say, okay, we're going to stand now for the anthem.
And let's be clear, being mad doesn't solve anything.
No.
I mean, if it gets to, hey, we're right for doing this, you're wrong for doing this, we're wrong, we're right for being mad at you, you're wrong for being mad, then nothing gets done. Right. It can't just be a bunch of people running around with torches going, ow, let's go after somebody because they disagree with me.
Kind of like what you want to do to the UK people that voted golf.
Oh, no, those people are all wrong. Those people are completely ridiculous.
Again, the list, the UK 2,000 people surveyed golf as the most boring game in the world. We've turned it into a bobblehead giveaway.
Because why wouldn't we?
Yeah, rip golf or defend golf. The best tweet, either side wins. Right now, I have a leader in the Texang, whatever, is in the leader in the clubhouse on my side. When my daughter was 2, she would request to have golf on television so she could take a nap.
So you're basing your entire premise on a 2-year-old.
Sure.
Think I've already won. Think I've already won as Joey Galloway joins us. And I must respond now that you have thrown out the 2-year-old. William Warwick, close to William Wallace, which would have been great. Any game that spawned John Daly, Happy Gilmore, and Caddyshack cannot be most boring. # Team Trey, final argument, even Golic loves golf.
You do realize only one of those 3 things is actually real.
Hey, I got a question for you. Who's been the most dominant, interesting athlete over the last 25 years? Tiger Woods. Pen drop. We move on.
Joey Galloway, you have recently taken up golf. Yeah. You love golf. You can't get enough golf. What do you think of this list where golf is at the top of the list of the most boring game in the world?
I play golf every single day that I am not working, and I've been doing that
Standing
for
O.
the past couple. Yeah,
Standing O for Joe.
But at the same time, though, it is boring. It is.
There you go.
But I mean, I love sitting on my couch and watching TV. Like, people ask, like, what do you like to do? I like to work out, sit on my couch, watch TV, and golf.
Yeah.
And so I'm a boring person. I absolutely love golf, but, I mean.
But you're boring.
It was the last sport I could watch on TV.
Yeah, but you watch it now, right?
I watch it. I watch it now.
Quit trying to talk him out of it.
I watch it now.
Yeah, because
for the past 2 years.
Yeah.
Like, I went my entire life, like 27 years of not being able to watch golf at all in the past 2 years since I started playing. Now
that's all you do.
Now
you're hooked.
Watch. Yeah, if it's on, I'm watching.
There you go. See, he started on your side, and then he evolved.
He did the most.
He evolved.
I didn't think we wanted politics in sports, Joe. He just jumped on both sides.
No, it's not politics. That's just understanding. You know, when you're 2, you're on your side. When you're an adult, you're on my side.
I matured into golf.
There it is.
Like I just matured.
Winning. And by the way, I think we have the greatest tweet of all time.
This is a good one. This is going to be tough.
This is the new clubhouse leader for both of us.
For both of us.
You want to read it?
No, go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
Ryan tweets in at Mike and Mike.
Yeah.
Golf puts my girlfriend to sleep, and I don't have to talk about feelings. Best sport ever. # Team Trey and # Team Golic. That's awesome.
Listen,
that is awesome.
There's no way he's not getting a bobblehead.
I don't have to talk about feelings.
There's no way he's not getting a bobblehead.
Anytime a guy can say, I don't have to talk about my feelings, that's usually a win for the male gender, is it not?
That's a win for everybody.
Yeah.
Because the other thing about that is when people say, tell me about your feelings, and then you tell them, then that sparks 5 different conversations that you don't want to have. So you don't even want to hear our feelings.
And then
if
you
you're
tell
being
them.
honest about it.
I was lost at tell me about your feelings. You went to and then you tell them.
The only thing worse
I'm back on Team Golic.
The only thing worse
then you tell them.
than a woman asking a guy, tell me about your feelings would be, the only line worse is, how do I look in this dress?
Yeah.
I thought you were about to say the only thing worse.
Fantastic.
I thought you were say the only thing worse is then the guy actually tells them about their feelings.
About their feelings? Yeah. If you actually answered the question.
Exactly.
Well, there's only one answer to that. You look great. What about this one? You look great. What about this one? You know you look great in anything.
My wife, I say things to my wife now that I actually mean, and she goes, I can't ask you anything. What else are you going to say? I'm like, I'm trying to tell you, I really do mean this, but you won't believe me. Somebody else will say something nice about her, and she'll be like, oh, that's really nice. I'm like, I said the same thing. She said, but you're my husband. You have to say that.
Exactly. So stop asking me.
Oh.
Right? What do you think about this? Well, I think it looks great. Well, how do you feel about this one? Well, I just told you I like that one, so why are you asking me about this one?
Right.
And then I have to say you like that one, too, because then you there's no win. There's no win.
Well,
it's like you in this bobblehead debate. There's
no,
no win.
I'm going to win. And
Joey's involved on my
actually
side.
wrote something very nice up there, a great segue about feelings. Joey, tell us your feelings about USC tonight.
Oh, Stanzik is finally producing content. Well done. Well done.
USC, Washington State, both undefeated. Washington State, though, can't beat anybody, or USC especially, and they're struggling at home as well against USC. How do you see this one going?
USC has played in close games this season, and it just seems like they're not going to be a team that puts people away. We expected to see a different USC team coming into this season after the 9 games last season, after the Rose Bowl. We expected to see a USC team that looked like a top 4, blow people out of the water type team. And so Western Michigan hangs with them in the first week, and then Texas takes them to double overtime. I think that Washington State, and if you talk about Western Michigan, Texas, and then Washington State, I think Washington State's a better football team than both of those teams that took them to the wire. And so I'm going with Washington State tonight.
You are.
I think that they do enough interesting things with their offensive line and moving and running the football enough to give Luke Falk time to throw the football, and then a lot of slanting and shifting up front. I think they'll be just enough to beat USC in a close game.
Well, it's funny. You mentioned Luke Falk, and a lot of people are talking about him, but he doesn't get the same conversation as the Joshes and Sam Darnold, and obviously Lamar Jackson for different reasons. But this kid can play.
He really can. And sometimes when we like an offense, we take away the credit from the player who's operating the offense. And because Mike Leach has always been notorious for having this terrific passing game, then we will ignore Luke Falk's 5 or 6 touchdowns in a game because we just assume whoever's playing quarterback could do that. But he's a very talented quarterback, and I'm looking forward to this matchup.
The numbers are so against Washington State. USC has won 9 of the last 10 meetings overall, won the last 5 straight trips to Pullman in this. The Cougars they're looking to do something they haven't done before, beat a top 5 Trojan team. They're 0-12 in such games and have been outscored by an average of 25 points per game. So you going with the upset tonight?
The streak has to end.
Yes, it does.
You know what? When Kentucky played Florida and Florida won 30 straight, I went Kentucky. Yeah. Eventually, the streak has to end. I mean, you got to keep picking
the Cubs
loser
are living
until
proof of that.
Yeah. Exactly, exactly right.
It maybe go through 2 or 3 generations, but eventually it ends. Okay, so that's one interesting game. They got second-ranked Clemson traveling to Virginia Tech. That's Saturday on ABC. This game could be interesting as well.
It will be interesting. I think that in you sort of forget that Virginia Tech was a team that played within 7 points of Clemson in the ACC championship game last year. And so when you play these types of games, and we're going down to Virginia Tech for this game, it is interesting that you have a team in Clemson who has surprised people, that Kelly Bryant has stepped right in and looked like Deshaun Watson for the first few games of the season, except last game against Boston College. He looked a little bit more human. The 2 interceptions, he fumbled the ball. Didn't throw any touchdowns. And then here's a Virginia Tech team where, Bud Foster is going to bring these exotic-looking defenses. One of the few defensive coordinators that you look forward to talking to, you look forward to watching what he does on film. And Josh Jackson is the other quarterback for Virginia Tech, who's having a pretty good season. He has not seen a defense like Clemson. And so the chess game and watching what Virginia Tech does in their biggest game of the season, where everybody will be watching, will be interesting to me.
What teams are we not talking about in your mind that are surprising and making and doing things that you didn't think maybe they could do and may end up, one of the top 4 at the end?
Georgia is a team that you sort of hedge on Georgia. They're always talented, but for some reason they couldn't quite turn the corner. And this season they look different.
Boy, they turned the corner on Mississippi State.
Yeah, they look different. And so we watch Mississippi State go and beat LSU in a physical – and you don't see LSU just get physically beat up, you know what I mean?
Yep.
And Mississippi State does it. And then Mississippi State goes and plays Georgia. And Georgia out-physicals Mississippi State. Okay, so now Georgia jumps on the scene, and here's a team that – we talk about is there anybody in the East? And then the conversation has turned into, is there anybody in the SEC besides Alabama? Well, it was starting to look like, okay, who is in the SEC? And now here comes Georgia. And I'm hoping just for the sake of football that Georgia continues to play well. And then at least for the SEC championship game, we'll have a great matchup.
Well, look, let's move on to University of Texas. They got off to that horrible start when they lost to Maryland. Then they find a way to beat Iowa State last night to level their record at 2-2. Is this place finally is this program finally in a place now where Tom Herman can get it going forward?
He hopes so, and it looks that way. But you know how football works.
Yeah.
I mean, you could look great for a week or two and then go back to looking like you did against Maryland. So you come out the first week of the season against a Maryland team, which is a mid to bottom range Big Ten team, and you get blown out.
I mean, blown out.
Yeah, and not only do you get blown out, but you look really bad while you do it. And this, I guess the same holes, the same issues that you saw in the past couple years at Texas showed up against Maryland. And so all of a sudden people are like, okay, wait a minute, did he fix anything? And then they win a cupcake game, and then they go to 2 overtimes against USC. So now everyone's saying, is this it? Is this that moment when people buy in? When a coach takes over a program and he talks about players buying in, well, some guys just buy in. Other guys need to have proof that what you're teaching us is right, before they really buy in. So they go against USC and they really have a good game. Now can they build on that? Last night they get another win. It looks like Texas has at least turned that corner to start heading in the right direction, and we'll see.
Saquon Barkley. I mean, everybody talking about him after last week. I'm not going to ask you to compare him to the last running back you saw this. That's what everybody always wants to do. What does he remind you of in college? Who does he remind you of in the NFL right now?
Right.
Just talk Saquon Barkley and what he is bringing to this Penn State team and how far they can go with it.
I thought he's a really good running back before last week's game. And then watching last week's game took him to another level. Watching him basically take his team on his back and refuse to go down in some situations. And you always hear people talk about bad tackling. And I always say, some guys are hard to tackle. Mm-hmm. Like some guys are just better than the people that are trying to tackle them. And that's what he was. And the play where he jumped in the air, got hit in the air. Now, it's hard enough to jump over a guy
that was a perfect
and land on your feet.
Split, by the way.
And you know what I mean? And keep running. He jumped in the air and got hit while in the air and landed on his feet and kept running. Those are the kind of things that separate a guy and take him to another level, because you don't see that type of thing on a daily basis. He's a special running back.
Well, it is interesting, right? 3 years ago, the conversation was, man, running backs are done. It's just, we'll get a guy and we'll do that. Then you have Zeke Elliott come in and do what he did. Then you have obviously Todd Gurley before him do that. People are having high hopes for Christian McCaffrey. Dalvin Cook has now come in and done through 3 games. He's on better pace than Adrian Peterson was.
I think one of the best things we're seeing is we talk about him as a running back, but now as we look going to the next level, they're starting to throw Gurley the ball. Now, certainly they didn't ask to do that a lot at Georgia. He wasn't asked to do that a lot at Georgia, just like Fournette wasn't asked to do that a lot at LSU, but they're going to have to do that. You see that now with Saquon. And it's not Penn State saying, hey, let's up his value to the NFL. They're saying, hey, let's get the ball in the hands of our best player The last 2 years, he averaged 2 receptions a game. This year, he's averaging 6 receptions a game. To me, that's the turning point right now, Joey, of that running back when you can add that element to the game.
Yeah, and you can get him away from the line. You know what I mean? You can get him away from all the noise and all the bodies flying around if you get the ball out wide. And I love the idea, and I watch Penn State do it. When a team blitzes, your running back, a lot of people use him to block, stay in and give your quarterback time. Well, in these blitz looks, your running back is covered by a linebacker. Mm-hmm. So why not find a way to quickly get him the ball? Don't use him to block. Here's one of your best athletes going man-to-man against a linebacker that has to locate him through all of the confusion. So leak him out. Send him like to the flat or downfield, and Penn State does it as well as anyone, and then get him the ball. And let's just see if your linebacker can come across this line of scrimmage and, number one, locate Saquon Barkley, but then make a tackle.
Yeah, I mean, and he leads the Big Ten in both receptions and receiving yards as a running back. I mean, we're seeing a very dynamic dual threat. I got to ask you, this is the first time you've been on the show since you did Central Florida Temple?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And there was that picture of the three of you.
USF, I'm sorry.
USF, yeah. There was that picture of the three of you in the booth, and a lot of people were like, is Joey Galloway wearing pants? What was going on there?
And did you have pants on?
I like to be comfortable.
Yeah, okay.
And you go call a game in Florida, and it is hot in the booth.
Yeah.
And so we get into a conversation in the second half, and I said Quentin Flowers should keep throwing the ball. Even though they're blowing him out, he needs to get work. And Booger's saying, hey, man, you got to worry about optics, the optics of the game. And I'm like, I'm standing here with no pants on and my shirt out.
Untucked,
I care about optics.
So you really had no pants on?
Are you leaving it to the imagination?
Yeah. Of course I am. You just leave that out there.
I'm going to move on from that.
Please ask a question because I need to.
By the way, I agree with you. I'm not worried about optics in that situation.
We can see that from your face.
So, well, there you go. What's going on in college basketball now with the FBI jumping in with the assistant coaches arrested? A lot of people think that's going to bleed over into football. To think this isn't happening at football, I think, would be a naive thought, at least to some. Well, we understand money changing hands has been going on for a long time. Your thoughts of this, ranging from why is the FBI worried about this to just how much this may blow up some college sports and what's going on?
I think it's going to blow up a lot bigger than it is now. If I was some of these coaches who were not cheating. Now, for years, it has been well known that there is cheating in basketball.
Right.
And I believe there's cheating in all sports. Mm-hmm. But the basketball side of it, it has been well known for years that there's a lot of cheating that goes on in basketball. So if I'm one of these coaches that doesn't cheat, I would have been calling the FBI, the CIA, the NCAA.
You'd have been snitching.
Oh, yeah. This
would be interesting if that's what got this started.
This is your livelihood. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, you're not just some fan sitting in the stand. This is your livelihood. And so if getting the 5-star player is someone's getting that guy because they're cheating, then absolutely, if I was one of the guys not cheating, then I'd have kicked in the door with the FBI like, hey, wait a minute. Wait a minute. Something is fishy here because me and this school were recruiting
close.
This guy, and all of a sudden, through the grapevine, I hear that this guy would like to get some money, and then the next day, this guy signs with that school.
Well, it's interesting. There was a great line from Lou Holtz when he was the Arkansas head coach in the 30 for 30, the Pony Excess about SMU, and was talking about recruiting back in the day in Texas, which was crazy. And he had this recruit that was all set to go to Arkansas, and the day of signing, he called him up and said, I'm going to Texas A&M. And he said, you've never even been to the Texas A&M campus. Why are you going to Texas A&M? And the recruit says, I just feel I'd be more comfortable there. To your point. By the way, if it was a former coach or a current coach that got this whole thing started, boy,
that would be something.
Would that be interesting? Yeah. And we don't know if we'll ever find that out. But speaking of coaches, our producer, Daniel Stanczyk, is one of the best.
Well.
In my ear, he says, Joey went to Ohio State.
You did?
And Urban Meyer is the current Ohio State head coach.
No way.
Thanks, Stanczyk. He actually had a very interesting comment, not on the FBI stuff, but just breaking NCAA rules. Let's listen.
I always believed if you willful and intentionally violate our law or rule, to, or you lie to the NCAA, you can never coach again. And I to this day, I still believe that. I'm not talking about the mistakes made, that you have a rule book like this, but if you intentionally pay a guy money, or if you intentionally willfully have a second cell phone that you're using illegal phone calls, you're done. You can never, ever coach again. It's no different than a student-athlete. If a student-athlete lies to the NCAA, they're finished. So you're telling me a 50-year-old man's got more rights than a 18-year-old student-athlete. Who comes up with that? If you will, once again, if you intentionally lie about committing violations, your career's over. You don't suspend it for 2 games. You can't, some of the silly penalties you have, you can't talk to a recruit for a week and a half or something like that. No, you're finished.
Wow. Yeah. I mean, that's a one-and-done thing there, huh?
Yeah. Well, what is interesting, too, because one of the best things about that thing is he's saying, as a 50-year-old head coach, I'm no different than the 18-year-old recruit. I mean, we should be held to the same standard, right? Yet sometimes that isn't the case when you talk about a coach leaving and a player can't leave.
Yeah, I think quite honestly, we should talk about that the coach should be at a higher position than the player and show more of an example to the player. Do you agree with what Urban said? And again, he said you get caught giving money, you get caught knowingly breaking these rules.
You're done.
You can work again. You just can't work as a coach again.
Yeah, I just don't know how you could prove it. And if you could, because just like all these coaches that they're about to go down in this basketball, they're going to act like they didn't know. Like, right. I didn't know that this guy was getting paid just because he had a new car and he had all new clothes and his family moved to campus and they bought a house when they didn't have one before. Hey, I didn't know, and we've all seen situations.
Yeah, oh yeah,
yeah. If
those air quotes
played,
situations?
yeah. If you've played, you've been around long enough. You played college ball. We've all seen someone pull into the parking lot with a new car, and so the coach could say, I had no idea where that car came from. I mean, he didn't have money when he got here, but somehow he found
deniability.
it.
But now some of these coaches that are caught on tape, the wiretapping of these assistant coaches,
will be hard to get around that one.
Yeah, they're going to have a hard time.
Yeah, getting back to that point, like I was in the Southwest Conference, not playing, but I was attending when SMU was at its heyday, okay? And you went up to the SMU, like, athletic parking lot, Porsche, BMW, Mercedes. I mean, they were not hiding at all.
Well, I think those cars were just a lot cheaper.
The coach had no idea, though. The coach didn't park in that lot. He didn't know.
He was in another place.
Yeah, I have somebody else. I have someone else who knows that.
Yeah. So, look, it's going to be interesting to see how this thing unravels.
The best of Mike and Mike.
We're going to play Love It or Shove It.
Yes,
brought to you by Grainger. Here we go.
It's time for another edition of Love It,
Oh, this is fun.
or Shove It with Mike and Mike on ESPN Radio.
Okay.
All right,
ready?
Bubba's here
Bubba's
for
here.
Love It or Shove It, and Bubba is
What's up, guys?
Now,
what's up, Bubba?
The thing about this, Trey, that you'll get used to is Bubba does this, and Bubba ends up in different places around the country or around the world to do this segment. And right now, it looks like he's close to home. He has a coat and tie on, and he's in the studios, the NFL
Looking
studio.
good. NFL Studio W, by the way.
Why are you dressed in coat and tie and in that studio?
Well, you may have heard, Trey's changed up some roles here, and so he may not be doing NFL Live as much as he had been. So I heard there's an opening, and I'm throwing my hat in the ring. So I'm going to be hosting today.
So you're hosting NFL Live today.
Oh, Bubba, that's so cute. That's so cute.
I'm going to be hosting today.
Yeah.
How hard can it be?
That's my thought exactly.
That's what I say every time I sit in this chair.
Yeah. Whoa.
So how hard can it be?
I think, Bubba, you've touched a nerve on him.
It's all good. Bubba,
Yeah.
I wish you nothing but the best, but I think you might want to talk to some. I'll give you their extensions. They may have a different idea for you. I'm just going to throw that out there. So be prepared. Just be prepared.
Can you be a little more specific?
Yeah, you're not doing the show. You're not doing the show.
Why would you crush the man's dreams?
I'm just being a realist.
Oh, that's
an audition
awful.
today,
All right, go for it.
Good for you. All right, what do we got, Bubba?
What do you got?
Mitchell Trubisky will start the Bears' next game. Love it or shove it?
I think I love it. Again, the one part of this none of us know is what he's doing in practice, what he's doing in film, how he's breaking down tape with the coaches, how all of that's going. If the coaches all feel that he is ready to step on the field in a regular season game without much trepidation on their part outside of normal rookie things, Trey, I think this will be the time. I think with the extended
mini
time
bye.
they have now, mini bye, right? If they feel he's ready to go and can be competent out there and making the line calls and recognizing what's happening, I think he's going to be the starter.
Well, I think I love it too. And what you just said, I think, is the most telling thing. Is he understanding the film? Is he understanding what's breaking down? When coaches ask him questions, can he give them the right answer? Because I'm sure Mike Glennon is doing all that too, and we're not seeing that translate into the field. And as Herm Edwards said, and you quote him, I know I can have turnovers with my rookie.
Right.
I need the veteran to not do that. And again, one of them may have been not his fault because it came off his shin. But again, if he wasn't 13 feet tall, it might not have bounced off his shin.
It's a man's fault for being tall.
Sometimes you're just too tall.
Wow.
In fact, you can look this up. There's never been a really good quarterback over a certain height, right?
Yeah,
it's
we did, yeah.
So I'm not saying it's Mike Glennon's fault for being tall, but sometimes that is a
fault.
fault. Yeah.
Genetics
went against you, man.
There you go.
So I think I love that. I love it too. All right, what's next, Bubba? Are you different somewhere now? Or are you staying in the same spot?
It looks like he's really
hosting NFL Live. Where do you want me to go? Are you not familiar with Studio W?
Do you really want me to answer that question?
A Cavs team with LeBron, Paul George, and Carmelo would have been a legitimate threat to the Warriors. Love it or shove it?
Well, I shoved that. I still don't think they would have beaten the Warriors. And actually, this is Carmelo talking. Actually, it was funny because me and Paul George was supposed to be in Cleveland on draft night. We were communicating about that. The deal was actually done. It got called off on draft night, so me and PG stayed connected throughout the course of the offseason. We never even talked about Oklahoma City, though, where they are now.
So he said that on Sirius XM, by the way.
I don't know.
So hold on. Let's sure we're reading this correctly. He thought that he and Paul George were going to Cleveland?
Yes, so there was a lot of thought that Paul George was going to get traded to Cleveland.
Yes, I knew that
And
part.
then once Carmelo got bought out, everybody thought eventually he would get bought out. He would end up in Cleveland as well. So the question, do you think that would have been enough to beat Golden State? I don't, because the team would have been different then. We have all the players that are on the team now. You have to change that up. I still say no, they would not have had enough to beat Golden State.
Well, I'm going to say I love that idea. I'm going to love it because if they had been able to close out Game 3 when they had that huge lead, series might have been completely different. Right. And if they have these guys, they probably would have been able to close
these guys.
out Game
Is Kyrie
3.
still off the team? Has he still been
That's
traded?
An excellent question.
That's one of the things we don't know.
Is the earth still
here.
flat? I'm not sure.
Well, that's a good question.
I do firmly believe, though, that was the rift that broke up Kyrie and LeBron.
Bubba, is the world flat?
Is the world flat, you say?
Yeah.
No, it's not.
Okay, see, I think that was the one thing that LeBron and Kyrie couldn't get past. They tried to work through it. Right. As LeBron said, I tried to help the kid. It just wasn't working. Right. And I think that was the one. All right, what's next, Bubba?
The NBA's lottery reform will lead to a noticeable decrease in tanking. Love it or shove it?
I mean,
I think we made our positions pretty clear.
We have already made our positions.
Shoving it.
Shove it. So, again, number 1, number 2, number 3, there were different percentages of if you get the top pick, obviously being the worst team, you'd have the best percentage. Now, the rule is all 3 will have a 14% chance of getting the number 1 pick, to which I think that's just going to increase the 5th or 6th worst team in the league to now knowing they couldn't get down to number 1 worst to have the best shot. All they have to do is get to the 3rd worst, and they have an equal shot with 2 and 1. So I think you could actually get more teams tanking by the end of the season to get into that spot.
Totally agree, and I think the best way to start this up for Love It or Shove It is to quote Loverboy, but saying we're shoving every minute of it.
Shoving every minute of it.
Cha-cha-cha. What's next?
Giancarlo Stanton should be the NL MVP. Love it or shove it?
Hembo, you think Arenado, right?
I think Nolan Arenado from the Rockies is likely to win the award. His team's going to make the playoffs.
Yeah, that always becomes a question. Are you
the best team on a team that makes it the playoff, or are you really the best player?
Exactly.
You know what I mean? That's the argument.
The age-old question here.
Yeah.
So
how many would the Marlins win if he wasn't on the team? If you're going back to the definition of value.
Right. That's always what comes up. Are you using actual value to the team? Because you can take a lot of players off the better teams, and they're not going to be as good.
I'm going to say I love it. I love the idea of Stanton being the MVP.
I would love him to, but I'm going to shove it. I think Arenado is going to be the MVP.
All right, we move on. What do you got?
Dark horse candidate, Cespedes. Golf
we didn't ask you for a dark horse candidate.
But he always gets
all right, go ahead.
No, that's what you do as an NFL. You ad-lib when you host.
Nice. You know what? Well done.
There you go.
Well done.
Golf is the most boring sport in the world.
Shove it. Shoving.
Oh, I know you are.
Shoving.
Again, the UK, 2,000 people there were polled, and they said golf is the most boring game in the world of the top 30 most boring games. I love it. I think they're right.
Shove. They're just mad that the Scots invented it, and Britain and Scotland have never gotten along.
That's it.
See Braveheart.
You think that's the reason?
History's with me. History's with me.
That's
Freedom.
true. We
Freedom.
don't need history books when you have a movie like Braveheart.
Correct.
Yeah.
And by the way, it was a film about Scotland shot in Ireland.
Well, there you go.
There you go. Add that one to the mix.
All right, we got one more?
You may be surprised to know this, but I'm actually a pretty good golfer.
I am surprised to know
that.
I am shocked to hear
They don't
that.
call me Par Peregrine for nothing. So,
do they call you Par Peregrine?
Some do, yeah.
Okay. What's your handicap?
It's around.
There it is.
Yeah.
See, you can't be a good golfer if you don't know what your handicap is.
I just don't want to make you feel bad. Well,
There
just
you
tee
go.
it up one day. The three of us head on over to Avon, do some things. A couple
Sure.
of Avon boys hanging out.
Why not?
The only person worse at taking a selfie than Phil Mickelson is Trey Wingo. Love it or shove it.
I'm shoving that.
How about that selfie, though, with Phil and the three presidents?
It was something.
Did you not like it?
Now, look at that. That's me and Fitz on the field at the Hall of Fame.
What is with your face? What are you doing? I get accused like that from my kids that I don't have the right facial expression in a selfie. I don't know what's going on there.
For those of you that aren't watching on television, it's me and Larry Fitzgerald on the field before the Hall of Fame game to start the season. And I'm wearing Maui Jim sunglasses, and I can't see, so I have to look under the Maui Jims and see the camera to make sure I'm lined up correct.
But does that mean your mouth has to look like you're frowning?
Oh, no, but see, I was also in that you didn't see the pointed fingers. I was like, we're good. So I had to get it all in context.
Larry Fitzgerald is sitting there smiling, as good-looking as he always is.
Absolutely.
And you look like
me.
A creature.
I look like me.
All right.
That's all I got.
Bubba, good luck today. I think you can do it. I don't think it takes much to host that show, so I think you're in good shape.
Absolutely. Here's my open, right?
Yeah.
Welcome to NFL Live, everybody. I'm Bubba. I'm joined by Adam Schefter and Field Yates. Let's talk football.
How was that?
It was awful.
Was it?
Yeah. It was horrendous.
I remember you saying
I'd like to see
stuff
you
like
try
that.
it.
What?
Yeah.
No, that was really bad. No, it was actually fun.
Yeah, I don't even have a prompter.
Yeah.
That was off the top of my head.
Well,
I don't even know for sure that Adam and Field are here.
I'm pretty sure Adam is always here.
Louis Riddick jumped in. Hey, Lou. Sweet Lou. Welcome to NFL Live. I'm your host, Bubba.
Is that the question you ask him, Sweet Lou? That's the question?
Bubba, I'm excited for you.
I can also host a golf show, Par Peregrine. I'm your host, Par Peregrine.
You're just the host. Right?
Oh, Michael Collins. Welcome to Par Peregrine's podcast. How are you?
We went Par Peregrine's podcast.
Perfect.
Triple P.
You're doing a nice job, Bubba.
Thank you. Yeah.
All right, we're done with you.
He's certainly doing
You
something.
watching, Skipper?
Okay. And we'd like to thank Bubba for his participation at the ESPN family of
that was
networks
awesome.
and wish him all the best. In his
You too,
future
Iger.
endeavors.
Awesome.
Oh, just throw Iger. And listen, is there anybody else you want to help in your self-immolation?
I mean, as long as those
Can we
two are
throw you an
watching, we're
accelerant to put on this trash fire?
You're right. As long as those two are watching,
Yeah.
you're in good shape.
Yeah, I think
you're safe within that.
Hey, the Hasselbacks. How are you? Take a seat. Welcome to NFL Live. Yeah, Trey doesn't do it anymore. No.
Actually, not until after the Super Bowl, but then you got a chance.
Oh, well, this is just a sneak peek.
I like. Well, we believe in
well
sneak peeks.
done.
You know what? Standing up.
Bubba,
Standing
well
up.
done. Yeah.
Standing up for
Good
Bubba.
job.
All right, now
All
get
right.
the hell out of here.
Goodbye.
All right, love it or shove it, brought to you by Grainger. No matter the job, Grainger's got your back. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Mm-hmm.
Coming up, a 5-point stance, and Brian Billick is on the way, and Bubba's on his way out. Oh, look, they're checking his door pass now.